we have a neighbor who went through the most terrible, unimaginable thing. And all of our community was terrified, supporting him, and writing about this online. But then we had an incident in our neighborhood, and I had to call the police, and they told me about additional things that are happening. And it was this true aha moment that when I realized that everything, all these good intentions and all these good things that people were posting about him can be used against him as well,
Mm,
because they were providing additional details about
mm.
him, his address, his location, his age, his habits, and damaging him even further.
They're playing into the hands of the criminals,
Exactly.
even though their intentions are to help
The
him
intentions were
recover.
good because
Mhm.
the entire community was in pain and trying to support.
Yeah.
But this may actually be abused against him. It
Mm.
took me time to realize that even these good intentions can be abused.
Hello, and welcome to the Smarter Online Safety Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn King, the Queen of Online Safety. Welcome, everyone. My guest today is a spectacular human being and somebody I really admire. Her name is Dr. Alex Shulman-Peleg. She's a Chief Information Security Officer at Kraken, and they are an AI-powered platform that helps energy and utility companies serve their customers and speed up the clean energy transition. She's been a global technology and security leader who has built and scaled cloud security programs for large organizations like EY, Citigroup, and IBM Research, protecting everyone from mid-cap firms to the Fortune 500. She holds a PhD in computer science. She holds 14 patents in cloud security and access control, and she has authored more than 30 publications and been cited over 4,000 times. She also serves on the board of the Open Network Users Group. Alex, such a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the Smarter Online Safety Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very excited to talk to you about
Thank
this topic.
you. Thank you. And the audience is going to get so much from your insights. I always like to start with the same question because everyone who goes into cybersecurity and safety has a personal experience and reason for getting into it. What brought you into this industry?
I have always been in technology, but the main shift for me was about 20 years ago. This was the time when we started moving everything to be online. If you
Yeah.
remember, it was the beginning of online storage when we
Yes.
started storing our photos and documents online. And it was a truly big change.
Yeah.
And new solutions only started to appear back then. I was at IBM Research, and I was given this task to build an online object storage that will be better than those that were available in the industry at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
my initial response was, it has to be more secure. So
Mm.
I invested a lot in building new approaches for access control, new approaches to secure these systems. And then over time, I realized how complicated this problem is because it is not just about technology. It is also about what we are doing with this technology.
Mm.
Because we can develop the best mechanism to manage access control. But it is all about how people are using it. So
Right.
without changing our behaviors and our approaches, we can't achieve what we want to achieve when it comes to protection.
Right. And when you talk
So
about people, that's everywhere from the customers to the employees to everybody who's
it's
involved.
exactly,
Yeah.
security is the shared responsibility, and everyone needs to do their part of this shared responsibility model. Those who are building need to build this in the most secure way. Those who are enabling this as a service need to secure the service.
Hmm.
Those who are using it, they need to properly configure this access control to their photos, and they need to pay attention to all the options. So it is
Right.
about engaging everyone and helping everyone to do the right thing. Let me give you an analogy to healthcare.
Oh,
Healthcare
great.
is not just about developing new medicine or new approaches to surgeries. It is about everyone doing the best that we can to listen to our body and have a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And this will help everyone, hopefully, to prevent the need for medicines or surgeries. And it is exactly the same in cybersecurity. prevention is the best medicine, but this requires changing our behaviors and our approaches. So excited to talk more about these topics with you today.
Well, that's great. And that's such a great analogy. I can't think of a better one, frankly. And you've got such a great vantage point. So help our audience see the big picture. Why, from your perspective, cybersecurity is a growing problem that everyone needs to be more aware of.
Yes, let's look back 20 years ago, how we used to manage things.
Yeah.
If you remember, we used to print documents.
Hmm.
We kept our photos at home.
Yeah.
Now, all of our photos, all of our memories, all of our documents are online. And now we're starting to use AI. We're telling AI agents, organize my documents, organize my photos. So this problem is becoming big and bigger because there are more things that we need to do to secure this.
Hmm.
For example, even 5 years ago, we had to focus mostly on access control. Whom are we sharing these photos and documents with?
Right. So
Now,
for our
with
listeners who don't know that as a term, it literally is what it
I-
sounds like. It's just controlling the access of who can get in and who can do
exactly, these
what with
are the
it.
permissions.
Right, exactly.
Whom are you giving the permissions to see your photos?
Hmm.
In most cases, especially when talking about social media, the defaults, the settings that you will get if you are not changing anything, they're actually wide open because they want to encourage sharing. This is their
Right,
business model. The
right.
more you will share with others, the more connections you will make, the more successful the platform is. So if you want to protect your documents or your photos so that they will not be visible to everyone, you actually need to change these permissions.
That's such a great point because I don't think most people are aware that that fine print in that agreement you sign when you sign up for a social media account actually says that you are giving your photos to them. Now, it doesn't mean they can, they're supposed to publish some on the front page of some publication, but it also means that if there's a breach and all your personal things are leaked, it's their content that was leaked. You don't have any legal recourse. You don't have, and aren't we somewhat dependent on what we hope are the ethical values driving the decisions of the company to a certain degree?
Yes, but the best solution is not to share things
Right,
that will embarrass you if they will become public. So
right.
this is what I'm telling everyone to think about. Think about how you will feel if this will be public, if
Right.
everyone will see this photo. Is this the photo or is this a document or a note that you want everyone to see? If
Hmm.
not, it is better not to keep it online at all.
Right.
Not on any platform. Just don't write this down. Don't say it. Don't take a photo of it.
You have to
Just feel
assume that once you post it anywhere, it's
exactly.
it's potentially available everywhere.
Exactly. And then it may be used against you. That's what we need people
Let's
to.
talk about that. A lot of people think, well, how would that be used against me? I'm just putting this photo on my Facebook account, and I think my settings are set to, contacts or friends only. I'm not completely sure. Or they know they've done that on Facebook but they definitely want visibility on LinkedIn, and they're not even sure about some of the other platforms they're on. What would you tell them to be thinking about?
If this is a photo that you're okay with being public, that's
Hmm.
fine. But people, for example, if this is with a person whom maybe you don't want to be with, or maybe you don't want this photo with this person to become public, or maybe
Hmm.
this is an embarrassing photo that will expose you, or something that you want to keep private.
Right.
And unfortunately, there are people who will try to abuse this.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point, and it's even worth thinking about who you think you might want to share it with. Who you might want to share it with now may not be who you want to have access to it in 5 years. There's a lot of cases of women and men who have broken up with somebody, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, and the more intimate photos, or even just cozy photos or romantic photos or hand holding, all the way to more explicit, are suddenly being used against them and stuff. And so, and we never think it will happen to us. But the problem is everybody who's going through that right now did not think it was going to happen to them either. So you're bringing up a really excellent point about just you would recommend that people lean on the cautious side of what they're sharing, right? Instead of oversharing, better to lean on the cautious side. You can always share it further later should you need to, but you can't pull it back once it's gone, is what I'm hearing you say.
Exactly. And people need to remember that there is actually the platforms are benefiting from these photos being shared
Right.
because maybe embarrassing photos will get more exposure, more engagement, and then they can do more marketing. So
Right.
they're interested in having these photos, and we need people to think, oh, maybe I don't want to be this product that is used to get this engagement of the platform.
Right. Right. Now let's talk a little bit about personal accounts. On this show, we talk a lot about you want to particularly protect your personal accounts like your banks and retirement accounts and things that and that's more important than other accounts. I mean, all accounts can be important because especially if they all are connected on one email and that's used everywhere. But even I have been telling people really focus on your top 10. And I may be guilty of not emphasizing the importance of the other accounts. Working for a company involved in what we would largely say is the utility space and all. You've seen some things about what's happening with people's personal accounts. So that I've never heard anybody talk about this before. Let's get into this. What are the things that you're seeing that everyday people should be aware of that affects them as people who have these accounts with their utility companies?
Yes, thank you. First of all, any online account may contain data that is of value, and the bad guys are interested in anything that has value that can be sold.
Yeah,
And
data is the
sometimes,
new gold, is what is out
exactly,
there, right? Data is the new gold, and that means information about you is gold to them.
exactly. And sometimes these are small things that we're not thinking about. For
Mm,
example, one of the school-related accounts that I had created in the past for my children was compromised. And initially I thought maybe that's not a problem. But no, it is actually this connection between me, my email, the school of my children, and this entire chain. This is the main problem in this case.
mm,
But initially people may think, okay, I had nothing in that account. That's fine. But it is this connection that may be exposing us. Additional things, maybe people will collect additional details, SSN, home address, and then they can use all of them combined for identity fraud. They can open a credit card on your name. They can file fake insurance claims. Now we have deep fakes, but
mhm.
it is about all these pieces combined, and sometimes these are different pieces from different breaches that may
Right.
allow this combination that may expose the individual. So this is why we need to treat every online account as a bank account, and
Mm.
we need people to carefully review their settings, use strong passwords, use multi-factor authentication, and truly think, what can I do to prevent someone else from accessing this account?
That makes a lot of sense because a lot of people are going to think, well, okay, I'll turn two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication on my bank account because I don't want my account to get drained. But, my energy, my water or gas, what are they going to do? They can't get in and get more water. But to your point, something far more valuable than even, you know, uh, plugging into your energy system and taking, energy that you're paying for, they're getting your data. Now, some people might say, well, my home address and stuff, that's already out there. But you were pointing to a good point, which is about aggregating data. Just because it's available in one place doesn't mean you should just open the floodgates, is what I'm hearing you allude to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And these all of these small pieces may be combined, and this is what may allow these bigger things like deep fakes or identity fraud. So this is why my ask to everyone, please treat every account as your bank account and have the same setup, both on password, MFA. Just get used to this and do this for
Mhm.
everything.
You mentioned your children's school. Unfortunately, a lot of government entities, you know, have a lot of breaches are reported, into our field a lot about all of these. We can't, we have to give that information. We can't control the protection of it. So all the more reason to be extra careful, but you can't, you're not, you probably, you're going to have a school, you're even going to have some energy utilities that aren't going to even offer two-factor authentication. So in that case, what should people be doing or thinking about to best protect themselves?
Maybe just reach out to customer service, drop a
Mhm.
note. Can I have multi-factor authentication? Maybe they're already discussing this and they just
Mhm.
think that people don't want this. And actually, the small note to their customer service may be very helpful because it will show that customers do care about these topics. And then this will help everyone bring these methodologies and make everyone safer. So please don't just think that you cannot change this. If you're saying this, just drop a note and help everyone to make your accounts more secure.
That is such great advice because as somebody who's run, marketing, customer input inside some large companies, and in the past, I've seen that, oh, if you get that kind of request from a customer, then the internal folks can use that to say, hey, there is interest here. It's not just an internal initiative. Another thing too, there was a large company I was working with that I actually was a customer of. I won't say which one, but it was one of the big cell phone companies. And I was changing companies, going from one to another. And when I was setting up my account, I thought for sure I was getting scammed because they called me. It was obviously from a call center overseas. I could hear foreign accent. I kind of knew where it was from. And they're asking me for setting up my account. They're saying, okay, and we need your social security number. And I'm like, okay, red flag. This could not really be the phone company that I'm setting up my cellular account with. And I said, oh, I'm going to hang up and call back in. I did. I hung up. I called back the known good number, which is what I tell everybody to do, and you do too.
Yeah.
And it turned out it really was them. And they were asking for it over the phone. And there's all these people in the background. I mean, there's nothing to prevent that person, should they have a side business of selling this data, be able to take down my social security number and name. And I sent an email to the CISO of the company. And he really did not know that was happening. That's the other thing. People don't, they think, oh, well, they know, why are they doing this? Well, they didn't even know. They changed it.
Yes, exactly.
And my
This is
single
why these
email
notes do
helps.
make a difference.
Yeah, it's just they weren't aware of it. As soon as they were, he was like, "Oh my God, we have to change this." So don't think that and it wasn't because I'm, the host of the show or something. It was literally me just pointing out to them this thing that they would never consciously do, that they were unaware of. And so I really recommend everybody do that if you're working with a utility of any kind or school, especially for our children, doctors' offices, and that have your medical records and your social security numbers and everything. Take Alex's advice and ask them for it, because if you don't ask, you probably won't get it. And if you ask, you've got a very good chance of them doing something about it because you're raising a concern and they have an obligation to protect your data. And when you bring it up, it gives them a liability they have to address. So that is great advice. Just speak
And
up.
me, exactly. And maybe they will be very happy to get this because most probably they do want to introduce this, but they're afraid that
Mhm.
customers will say that's too complicated. We don't want it. So this
Right.
note can actually help them because most probably
Right.
they are discussing this and they're just afraid to make it too complicated.
Right.
Um,
Or it's going to cost them, so they're delaying it because why would they spend money if nobody's going to use it? And when you say you're going to use it, so
yes,
you're helping, and you're not only
everyone.
helping them, you're helping yourself and your family, and you're helping everybody else who's a customer. So that's great. We don't. There's not as much consumer advocacy now as there was when I was growing up. And, where people would write letters and speak out. And I remember my mom writing letters to companies and stuff, and kind of this social consumer activism in a sense. There is a lot of it through social media now, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it is about brand. And you can actually have a real impact on the actual practices and the security of the companies you work with by doing these things. So use that leverage, and you can post it on social media, or you can call them, or you can write in on the email, but you can, however you want to do it. But I think that's great advice. Great advice. And you've raised some real concerns about shared accounts, situations where everyone is handed the same password, because you've seen that across companies that need to share it, and you've seen it, I think, in schools too. So let's talk about what that situation is, and then what should people do?
Yes, first of all, let's acknowledge that it is easy. And many people are doing this, even within families. Sometimes people will be sharing accounts for their video streaming,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe this is their Costco account.
Mm-hmm.
It is just sometimes more convenient to use the same account rather than opening different accounts.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the right thing to do. Because we do need to have different passwords. Then we do need to have multi-factor authentication, passkeys, and all these things. And these are different between the users. So we cannot truly enable biometric authentication or other things on these shared accounts. So in practice, it becomes actually more complicated. But still, people have this tendency, because many systems originally couldn't provide also personalized accounts.
Mm-hmm.
But we should be asking for this. The same, for example, if someone is managing a building and is using the same account for all of the apartments, that's not the right thing to do.
Like a rental management company.
Exactly, rental
Okay.
management.
Mm-hmm.
We want actually every property to be managed separately, separate account. And then if there's several, maybe owners, they should have several accounts exactly in the same way as bank accounts.
Right. Well,
Banks
so
also shifted this to have personal accounts because
mm-hmm.
today they they will be fighting these shared accounts if they will see that it is the same account that is used by different people. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say, for example, if you are many banks have this option to chat with your bank account management team, and if they
Right.
will see that these are different people using the same account, they will raise this red flag. That's not okay. They won't reply to you. They will ask to fix this.
Okay.
This is
That's
what
good
I've
to know.
seen.
That's good to know.
And I think this is the practice that we need to bring in all the areas. We need people to be aware of this, not to have
Mm-hmm.
shared accounts. And then we need those who are managing this also to be aware of this and do the same change that was done for banks. Because initially, many families were using the same family bank account.
Mm-hmm.
But this has changed over time, and most banks even won't allow this. That's
Right. Or
exactly
you
the
can have a joint account, but you've got different logins for each person registered
Exactly,
on the account.
exactly.
Right.
So it may be a shared account, but then you
Right.
have different usernames and different passwords.
Yeah. Now, famously, because it's made the headlines, it's made so many articles. Netflix accounts were famous for somebody would sign up and they'd share the account passwords and stuff with friends. So you could get three people in three different locations just paying $10 a month. Um, so for people who are on a budget or just like, why would I spend more money when I don't have to? Using that kind of a model, like what, nothing's going to happen. They're going to see the TV I watched, but there's nothing in there. Why would I do something? Why would I pay more money just to check some boxes? What's the answer to that?
Yes, that's a good example, maybe questioning this model. But if you're giving this account to someone whom you cannot trust,
Mm,
then they will be watching things that you don't want to be associated with your name. And this may
mm,
become public and this may be used against you. So maybe it is sometimes better to pay, a few bucks a month not to be associated with content that you
mhm.
don't want to be on your name.
I was aware of that. There was somebody who they didn't lock their computer. It was a man who didn't lock his computer or his account, and one of his wife's male family members came and stayed with them for a while. He was out of a job and he was a bit of a mess and he was staying with them. And because he didn't lock his computer, and he said, if you need to search, because he's supposed to be doing job searches and things, right? He's supposed to be searching for that. He's using the internet. Well, it turned out that all this porn was on there, and then some child porn was downloaded. And the father who's not watching child porn or doing anything like that got a visit from the police about it, and it was not a fun episode for the entire family, and there were actually charges against the family member who had done it, and you can imagine what that did to the family there. So in that case, it's not even just the account; it's also even doing what you and I consider basic hygiene. Lock your phone, lock your, lock your computer, have it time out, like if you walk away for 5 minutes, let it lock. But pick a time so that people can't get in. And in that case, he had actually given him permission to use it, thinking
Yeah.
he could trust them. So when you say not somebody you shouldn't trust, people are thinking, well, I'm not doing that. I'm doing my brother-in-law or my uncles or kids, but you don't, none of us know what other people are doing. And you don't want to get a knock on the door or
Yeah.
a subpoena coming for you or somebody else. And it happens far, far, far more often than anybody would believe.
Yes. Yes. That's definitely a very unpleasant example. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
But
Well, because it's so
illustrates the
relevant to what you
concern.
were
Yes.
talking
Yes.
about, and
Exactly.
when you think about, well, even the movie scenario. I mean, think about it. Your friend's watching totally different type. The very least, you're going to have the inconvenience of having it say you like this, so now you'll like. And it's going to be recommending things to you that you don't want to watch at all. So at the very least, that's the issue. So it's a good
Yeah.
point. Really, what we should be doing is making sure we're making sure we understand how can we have multiple people on one account, which is going to cost less than setting up two or three separate accounts if you want. At least be able to have your identity separated, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly the point.
Right. And you brought up a really important point about being a mom and dealing with your kids in the school, because you're not just a top CISO who is, admired and respected within the profession, but you're also a mom and a spouse. So what do you tell your own family and friends to do that you wish everyone listening would also do to stay safer?
Yes. Maybe two things. First of all, be careful about all the setups. Most of the apps and most of the social media platforms by default will be open. Let me give you maybe one additional example.
Hmm.
Strava. I just connected my watch to the app. By default, everything that is uploaded from the watch was made public.
When you
Why?
say public, what do you mean? But like who could
That
access it?
others who are not just my followers can see the data from my watch.
Wow.
So you need to pay attention to this because
Mhm.
otherwise your data will be available for others to see.
Right. I think it's
Venmo,
important people realize public equals 8.2 billion people on planet Earth
exactly.
potentially have ability to
Others
see
can
it.
watch.
Yes.
Venmo, it's the same. People can see your payments to other people.
Right.
Maybe you don't want this to be visible.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that. I know that because when I've done some things with transactions of that, I see people doing that. They say, you want this to be public. And they're like, what do you mean? And then you have to explain it. So they're not aware. If you look at your Venmo charges, they're public or private. And to your point, they're always, it's in the company's best interest to have everything be public because it's showing how much
These are
everybody's
social
using it.
platforms, right?
Yes.
The goal of Strava is to make my data available so that others will give me thumbs up.
It also shows what they're saying. They're saying loan, gift, payback, pizza emoji,
Exactly.
whatever it is. There's, not only that there's a transaction, but what it's for gets shared as well.
Exactly. And this is just a few examples, and this is part of the business model. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily negative. It is just part of the business of these companies.
Hmm.
But people should be aware of this and they should be reviewing these settings.
So to your point about the data being valuable, okay, they've got your name and address and birthday and all that stuff because maybe that's public. Now they just found out who you're buying things from. What is a hacker going to do with that everybody needs to be aware of?
There are many things that you can do when you know who is paying whom, what are they doing, what are the relationships, where are they spending their time. And when people want to abuse something, there are always ways. And
Hmm.
that's what we need everyone to think about. And we need
Hmm.
to think carefully both about the settings and all the connection points. For example, my mistake, I initially reviewed my Strava account, but then I connected my watch. And that's a different event that
Mm,
needs this careful review because there are additional configuration options for
right,
this connectivity between the apps and the devices.
right,
So these are kind of two things, the apps themselves and then what is connected to these apps.
right.
And you need to constantly review this. And sometimes you may not see the options that you need to keep your data private, but you should be getting back to this reviewing. In many cases, they will actually allow these settings later on. And so
Okay.
if you're not seeing something that you need, best thing just, contact customer support. And maybe they will make it available for you. But paying close attention to this.
So
This
your recommendation would be that everybody just assume that anything you hook up, the settings are going to be public, and that your goal is you should be to make them all private. You can
exactly
always share, and also you can always change it later to share something once
with
you fully
those who you
understand the
want to share
implications.
this with.
Yeah.
Yes, and it is not easy.
Yeah.
It is something that we need people to constantly invest in because it is easy to make mistakes. And everyone is making these mistakes of not
Right.
uh, setting everything to
Mm.
private. This is why we need people to constantly review all of their online accounts, all of their apps, all of the sharing options. It's a lot of work, but there is no other way.
Right. Well, and privacy is one of those things that we don't realize how valuable it is or how important it is until until it's gone.
Exactly.
And even worse, being used against us, and we can't retrieve it, and we're stuck having to live differently, change the way we live our life because of being compromised. And as somebody who's lived through that and having to pull back, and I totally get it, and I see people every day. So value your privacy, because once it's gone, it's a lot easier to keep your privacy
Exactly.
following Alex's recommendations and tips than it is to regain it. A lot easier.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's such a great point. Thank you. And what else should our listeners be thinking about when it comes to privacy and data, including we've been talking about what we're posting, but a lot of times what we're posting, as they say on Ted Lasso, it's not a selfie, it's an ussy. I'm taking a picture, I'm taking a selfie with me and somebody else or a group, and things are getting posted,
Exactly.
um, and tagging and things. Explain that to people. There's a lot of people listening who have not consciously gone across the board and made sure the settings are what they should be for their level of desired security.
Yes, maybe this is, I think you're raising a very critical point. We need people to think not just about themselves, but others who are related to their posts. If these are photos and you're posting a photo with someone else, ask that person. Don't just automatically tag and assume that the other person wants everyone to see this photo.
Hmm.
Ask if the person is okay with you posting this photo and tagging him or her in this photo, because some people may not wish this to be done to them.
Hmm.
Also, when you're writing about others, even with good intentions, think about this. Let me share a personal story that was this true aha moment for me. We have a neighbor who went through the most terrible, unimaginable thing. Um, and all of our community was terrified, supporting him, and writing about this online. But then we had an incident in our neighborhood, and I had to call the police, and they told me about additional things that are happening. And it was this true aha moment that when I realized that everything, all these good intentions and all these good things that people were posting about him can be used against him as well,
Mm.
because they were providing additional details about
Mm.
him, his address, his location, his age, his habits, and damaging him even further.
They're playing into the hands of the criminals,
Exactly.
even though their intentions are to help
The
him
intentions were
recover.
good because
Hmm.
the entire community was in pain and trying to support.
Yeah.
But this may actually be abused against him. It
Mm-hmm.
took me time to realize that even these good intentions can be abused. So I
Hmm.
ask to everyone, even when posting about someone else, even when these are messages of support or well-being, think about the data that you may be exposing about this person,
Yeah.
because maybe it's not a good idea to provide all these details about someone else's disaster.
No, that's a really good point. And Alex, that reminds me of something else too. Like, when you're talking about tagging, I think there's a lot of people who don't even realize they have a tagging setting they can toggle on and off. You want to talk about that for those who, or they know, but they know, but they haven't even looked at it for 10 years. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, different platforms may have different settings. But I think now, initially, this was not an option. But I
Mhm.
think now, in most cases, in the privacy settings, you can control who is tagging you, who is referring to you, who can see your account, who can reply to you. So carefully review all these options and think, what do you want to enable? Some people may want others to tag them. Others may not wish to enable this option. And so both sides, you need to review what you want to enable. Those who are tagging or sharing photos of others, think if this is okay, or maybe you're violating someone's privacy.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And so there's lessons in there about how you can even further protect yourself, which is particularly important if you're in a more sensitive situation. Let's say you've just gone through a divorce or a move and you don't want your new home to be on about more people go through having stalkers or strange things happen or somebody, I mean, even a manager at a company who had a disgruntled coworker who had left. This person wasn't even a manager. They were not a manager, but they kept their job and their colleague got laid off and they started getting targeted by that person. So here's somebody who's not even in a high level management position or anything, worried about their own safety. And then they're looking at, oh my gosh, my address is available online. I've posted the gym I work out at, and all of a sudden
Exactly.
oh my gosh, they could show up anywhere because here's my favorite bar where I watch the sports, games. Here's my gym. They know where I work and now they know where I live. And you just have that feeling like in a Clint Eastwood movie where the bad guys are showing up and you're like, and that's when people say, I had no idea. So thank you for giving everybody the idea now to be thinking about this. And again, it's not to be paranoid, right? It's about being self-empowered and deciding,
Exactly.
what safeties do I want to do? You can do, some, or all, and get to the level of safety you want so that you can sleep well at night.
Exactly. It's about
Mm.
us being in control. So
Yeah,
we want everyone to be in control of their content. So that
that's so
is
great.
their decision. And that's what we need everyone to realize, that it is their choice. They need to think about this and they should be in control.
I love that. And then, we cover a lot of the basics regularly, like password managers and credit freezes. You've given some great tips here, but what's another tip or two that you would advise people to do to be smarter and safer online?
Yes, password managers are very critical.
Mhm.
I think especially with the number of online accounts that all of us have, it is almost impossible to manage otherwise.
Right,
So for those who still don't have any type of password manager, please use one of the big companies and use strong passwords. Um, so just thinking about this and doing it right. And it's a journey. It's not one thing. It is not one and done. There's no such thing as being 100% safe.
right,
It is about thinking about this all the time, trying to do the best that you can, and trying to be in control.
right. Yeah, that's such a good point. Even the people who are deep in cybersecurity, who are in law enforcement, who are on the cutting edge of fighting cybercrime and all the tech to protect you, will tell, you can't be more than 99% safe at any given time. So great,
Yes.
great, really great advice. Thank you for that. And thank you for the wonderful tips, thinking about our utility accounts being important because there's data in there. We weren't thinking about our schools, how to advocate for two-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication where it doesn't exist, and all of the other great advice you've given. Alex, where can people find and follow your advice?
Honestly, I think these are just regular practices. I'm not very public about these things.
Sure.
I would just advise everyone to
Actually, let me
learn.
stop on that. Let me redo that so that I don't put you in that
Yes,
situation. So do you want me to say, where can people connect with you for
learn.
more information about
Maybe
your work?
where can people learn more?
Yes.
Maybe
Okay.
something like this. Let's
Okay,
check.
perfect. Read it. So, Alex, where can people learn more?
Yes, I think the best advice is for everyone to be curious about what's available to them.
Mhm.
When you're installing a new app, opening a new account, review all the options. Just be curious. What are the options that I have to control my account and my data? Review this and make your choices so that you will be in control. And that's the best way to learn because every app, every platform is different. Just keep this curiosity and keep your privacy.
Wow, such great advice. Thank you so much. Thank you for all you do to keep us safer in our communities and in our utilities, and all that you do sharing here of how we can keep ourselves, our families, and our data safe. Well,
Thank
you
you
heard
for
it, folks. You got some great tips out of Alex Schulman-Peg. And until next time, stay safe out there.
Thanks for having me.